easy opening question lightning round for you guys. And that is, are you a plotter or a pantster? And we're going to start with Claire.
I'm in between. I'm a plotzer, plancer, one of those. I plot and then I pants in between of the plotting.
Okay, perfect. Erin?
Total pantser. Yeah, I write just what you need me to write to give you an outline and get a contract, and then I figure it all out as I go.
Perfect. Crin?
I'm a plotter these days. Started out as a pantster, but I'm a plotter now.
Interesting. I often hear that it goes the other way, that people start plotting and then get lazy over time. But interesting. Okay. And Deb, how about you?
I started out as a plotter, like you said. But after 20 books, I find that I just need a general idea and then the characters take it away from there. So I guess now I'm a pantser.
Yeah, you've kind of internalized all the structure that you need. Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so this is a reading panel and we are reading flirting scenes. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. We are going to start with Claire. If everyone else can turn off their audio and their video, we'll give her the floor.
All right. So I'm Claire Donniere. I write mysteries, romantic intrigue, and rom-coms. I hope funny. I'm gonna be reading from my debut novel, if you can see, Shot Through the Heart. It's a book about a Secret Service agent, Allie Gordon, who goes undercover to investigate a U.S. Senator's chief of staff, Nicole Lancaster, who's one of the primary suspect in a assassination threats against the senator. And the closer Allie gets to Nicole, the harder it gets to choose between breaking the rules or breaking her heart. And I'll be reading a scene from Allie and Nicole's first meeting before they actually, either of them knew who the other person was. They both stuck at the San Francisco airport, flying to DC, and their planes are delayed. Okay, convenient. Damn, Nicole Lancaster groaned, cursing the universe. Her flight to DC was delayed, and she could do nothing to change it. She never asked for anything. How hard was it to keep her flight on time? She wasn't asking for world peace. Waiting made her restless. She settled at the bar next to the gate, ordered a cranberry mimosa, and rummaged in her purse for the latest issue of the Wonder Woman comic series. She was deep into the story when the stool next to her squeaked. Nicole kept reading when the newcomer spoke. Did you know that William Marston, the original creator of Wonder Woman, got his inspiration for Diana from Olive Byrne, who lived with him and his wife in a polyamorous relationship? Just her luck. Why did she always encounter people who insisted on bothering her when she was so clearly unavailable? Nicole clenched her teeth and lifted her head. Are you talking to me? The woman smiled apologetically. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. Do you mind me sitting here? The voice, deep and velvety, penetrated the inner core of Nicole's brain. No, I don't mind. She closed the comic book and placed it on a counter. To answer your first question, no, I didn't know. Are you a Wonder Woman fan or comic book aficionado? Neither. I collect useless facts as a hobby, the woman chuckled. Nicole smiled in return, studying the interloper's features. She was stunning. Chestnut hair pulled into a tussle ponytail and a minimum makeup. Her hypnotic lips had a touch of rosy gloss. An adorable dimple, Nicole was a sucker for dimples, appeared when her lips curved into a amused smile. Her dark blue eyes sparkled under the bar lights like stars at midnight. The stars blinked and the lips moved. Nicole blinked back. I'm sorry, what? The heat rose to her neck and cheeks. Oh no, was she caught staring? I asked if I could buy you another drink. The amusement in the husky voice made it sexier. I was about to order one, and your glass is almost empty. That was quite smooth. The comment didn't seem like a pickup line, but rather a polite gesture, which in a way was a bit of letdown. The woman was simply being nice, Nicole decided. Still, a letdown. Thank you, I'd love that. The woman signaled the bartender and ordered two mimosas. My plane's not leaving for a couple of hours. Might as well get comfortable and enjoy the company and the view. Her eyes lit with mischief. Now that was a line. Nicole had heard them all, but this woman was a league on her own. Flirting with this stranger brought none of the usual numbness and disappointment. When was the last time she'd blushed like a prepubescent schoolgirl? All was missing were giggles. Nicole massaged her stiff neck. It was warm to the touch, heat rising to her cheeks. She fanned herself and took a few deep breaths, wishing for a mirror to identify the shades of red she suspected her face now displayed. Are you okay? The woman's eyes twinkled. Definitely not. I'm too young for hot flushes, so it must be hot in here. Right. The woman rotated on her stool, so their knees almost touched. So, comic books. It's a guilty pleasure, Nicole admitted. Ah, one of those, the stranger winked. Don't tell me you don't have any. Well, if you must know, I have a few. Nicole kept looking at her, waiting for more. The woman shrugged. Classic movies and chocolate. Nicole raised her eyebrows. Exhibit 1. The woman opened her tote and took out a gigantic Toblerone bar to make her point. The chocolate slipped from her fingers and landed on the bar with a thud. Oops. The woman chuckled and offered some to Nicole. Their hands touched. The unexpected warmth and softness of slender fingers sent a delicious shiver down Nicole's spine. She was a walking cliche. Are you one of those people who can eat anything without worrying about their figure? Nicole took a bite of the chocolate. It melted on her tongue. I swear, I look at the piece of chocolate and add a few pounds. I wish I had better eating habits. I exercise when I have time, but until recently I traveled a lot and spent most of my time on my feet. Oh, what do you do? I'm a photographer. What sort of photography do you do? Wildlife and occasional celebrity parties, the woman replied. Those are two unlikely and unrelated subjects. Not as different as you might think. Some of those parties can get pretty wild. Nicole bit her bottom lip, stifling a giggle. I'm sure they do. And what do you do? Oops. Nothing as glamorous as a celebrity photographer. Nicole finished her chocolate. I work in politics. How exciting. So you have your fair share of celebrities and parties, the woman teased. She shrugged. Uncomparable, I'm afraid. Yours are, no doubt, all fancy and flamboyant Hollywood. Mine are boring political meetings, lectures, and testosterone-filled egos. The brunette laughed. The sound made Nicole swoon. What was happening? She was now getting a crush on a stranger at the airport, an attractive stranger with celestial eyes. Your eyes are gorgeous, Nicole blurted out. She grimaced, wishing for the ground to swallow her whole. Thank you. That's a nice thing to say. To her credit, the woman didn't accuse her of flirting or feeding her a cheap line. She smiled and raised her glass. Yours are not bad either. Nicole froze, gazing into aforementioned gorgeous eyes as she reached for her flute. She missed her mark, knocking the drink into the woman's lap. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She grabbed a napkin, horrified. Had she fucked up? She had probably fucked up. The brunette halted Nicole's hand as it was about to touch her thigh. It's fine. Your glass was half empty. She carefully dabbed the wet spot of the light gray slacks, then crumpled the soaked napkin and tossed it on the bar. She'd most definitely fucked up. Nicole covered her face, saying she was clumsy would be too kind. The woman nudged her shoulder. Hey, it's okay, no harm done. She pushed her glass out of reach. Tell me more about your boring political meetings and testosterone-filled egos. Her serene smile calmed Nicole and deflated her panic. She returned the smile. Well, how much time do you have? That's it.
Oh, very flirty. And at an airport wine bar, no less. I love it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Next up, we have Crin Claxton. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm reading from my latest book, Across the Enchanted Border, which is a swords and sorcery fantasy novel. And the four characters in this scene are Skylar, who's a butch warrior, Kalida, who's a powerful knife-throwing femme, Florian, who's Kalida's child. Florian is feminine presenting, male assigned at birth, 13 years old, and Kit. Kit is a magical fox. After a long day's hike, as the sun dropped low, they stopped at a meadow with a small spring gurgling over stones. Kit ran straight away to the water and lapped there delicately. Kalida had grown fond of the witch fox. He was an efficient predator, strong in limb and mind, yet graceful in his movements. He was as loyal as a hound with a cat's independence. He had protected Florian twice. Indeed, Kalida liked Kit very much. Now they had no horses, Florian's new job was to replenish water. He knelt at Kit's side to wash his face. He had cupped his hands to drink when Kit shook himself vigorously. Florian shrieked. Then he laughed and wrestled Kit until they were both soaked. Kit pushed Florian away with his head and ran off into the long grass. His eyes twinkled and his lips were pulled back, very much as if he were laughing. Cleda would not have been surprised to discover Kit had splashed Florian deliberately. Well, it was no good standing idle. The sun would set soon. Schuyler stepped into her path. How about Florian and I find supper tonight? Foraging seems always on your shoulders. Florian has seen wild carrots behind the stream. If you're sure. Cleda turned instead to collecting firewood. There was a flat spot near the spring, near a large oak tree where someone had made a fire pit some time before. Cleda began to build a fire. It would need to be a long-burning one. She put knife to flint and the kindling caught with a whoosh. Cleda sat for a moment, warmed by the flame and the last rays of the sun, comforted by the scent of wood smoke and the gentle trickle of water. She could close her eyes and be completely at peace here. They had little money and scant supplies, but life was abundant with Florian, Schuyler, and Kit. Hell's teeth, those were dangerous thoughts. Her eyes flew open, pointless thoughts. Florian flopped down by the fire. He dropped their 3 canteens and a small pile of cleaned wild carrots. We found berries and pears. Schuyler will be along soon. Kit's gone hunting. Well done, Florian. I'm proud of you. You've adapted well to our changed circumstances. I'm happy, Mamma, especially when it's quiet and safe, like this. Cleda hugged him tight as Schuyler arrived with a kerchief brimming with fruit. The pears were good. They ate them while the carrots roasted. The berries were overripe. Cleda tried one and tasted fermentation on her tongue. I'm not sure we should eat these, she began to say, but Schuyler and Florian had already scooped up great handfuls. Cleda shrugged and joined them, laughing, as her fingers turned purple with the juice. What do you think about going to Greendale? Schuyler asked. On the map, it's near Bear Glen, the home of your cousin. Schuyler frowned. Leaving Schuyler at Bear Glen was not something she wanted to think about. Is it on the way? The shortest way is to go through Greendale, in fact. Makes sense, then. Cleda was distracted by movement on the branch above them. A squirrel. She reached for a knife. It was poultry, but meat at least. Florian stayed her hand. It's preparing for winter, Mamma. Maybe it has a family relying on it. His expression was so sweet, his questions so poignant. Cleda relented. It was almost dark anyway. She could miss and lose a knife, and there'd barely be a few mouthfuls of meat for the cost of killing a creature and upsetting Florian. Kit returned and curled up with his snout on his bushy tail, staring passively across the darkening meadow. Schuyler winced, shifting on the ground. She patted her breeches pocket and drew out something she examined in the firelight. I'd forgotten about you, she told a lump of resin about the size of an egg. Is that the extent of your riches now? Cleda teased. What can be done with such a piece? Schuyler smiled. Perhaps not a lot. I was cheated when I bought the block, but it saved our lives. Maybe silly, but I feel it's lucky. You were prepared, Florian said, like the squirrel. Ah, Schuyler murmured. She pulled her short dagger from her belt and began to whittle at the piece. Cleda watched a bushy tail take shape. I've never met anyone like you, she said with tenderness. That's a good thing, I hope. It was. It truly was. Florian's mood turned giddy. He sang a boisterous and ridiculous song, made up a jig that he performed to a most bemused Kit, and promptly fell asleep. His mood was contagious. Cleda felt light and silly as if she'd drunk too much wine. The night air was sweet with the scent of grass and crushed berries, and Schuyler was inconceivably handsome in the firelight. Warmed by the flames, Cleda watched Schuyler magically create an animal from the resin. She was strong, skilled at combat, kind, gentle. Cleda yearned to be honest with Schuyler. She wanted a better hand than the one life had dealt her. She was so deeply tired of hiding who she was. I love women, she announced. Skylar looked up from her carving, and cold shock roused Kalida from her stupor. By the 7 realms of hell, what had possessed her to blurt that out? Kalida did not dare look at Skylar. How could she be so witless? There was danger at every turn, and they needed each other. If Skylar were horrified and left, it would be a disaster. The flames crackled on. Crickets continued to chirp. Skylar did not leap to her feet and walk away into the night. You love women, Skylar repeated. It would be pointless to deny it now. Yes, all of my lovers have been women. All of your lovers. Skylar seemed only capable of repeating Kalida's words. Kalida studied her. Skylar's eyes were big and wide and somewhat dazed. Why? Then Kalida remembered the fermented berries. Good heavens, they were intoxicated. Maybe Skylar hadn't understood. If so, it was undoubtedly for the best. Kalida sighed and leant back, strangely disappointed. Her secret felt heavier, more taxing. That's wonderful, Skylar gushed. Kalida blinked. I beg your pardon. Skylar took hold of both of Kalida's hands. That's wonderful. Skylar's palms were rough and calloused. Of course they were. She worked so hard. Yet the skin on the back of her hands was surprisingly soft. Before sense could deter Kalida, she bent forward and kissed her. Skylar kissed Kalida back. She tasted of berries and salt and summer days, days that led to hot summer nights. I like women too. I like you, she murmured. That's good. That's very good. Kalida gave in to all the parts of her that saw no sense and heeded no reason. They kissed for a long time. They might have gotten entirely carried away had Kit not yawned the most delightful yawn. Full of contentment, they broke apart and laughed. Florian was asleep right there. It wouldn't have been right to go further. But by all that was holy in the heavens, it was devilishly hard to stop.
Goodness, I'll take some of that flirting, please. Thank you so much. That was great. And I also enjoyed the little chicken reference. So that was very sweet. So a whole lot in there. Next up, we have D. Jackson Leigh.
I'm D. Jackson Leigh. I have written 20 books for Bold Strokes, published through Bold Strokes, and one collection of short stories. I'm going to read an excerpt from my latest book, which is Heart's Run. It's a story about a woman who's her job is transporting expensive horses, and along the way there's an accident, and one of very expensive thoroughbred mare gets loose and joins a herd of wild horses. And the only person that can help her catch this horse is a woman who's a wild horse advocate that thinks she should just let the horse run free. Anyway, they seem to be on opposing ends, but there's also attraction between them. And the scene that I'm going to read, Maggie, the wild horse enthusiast, has been in an accident, farm accident, and Toby, the horse hauler, found her in the field and took her to the emergency room. And this is when they're coming back. The wind had grown stronger, so strong she could feel the crosswinds trying to push her heavy-duty truck off the road while she picked up Maggie's medicine and returned to her farm. Ricky appeared instantly, jogging toward her from the barn when the first splatters of rain hit. Let's get her in the house before this shower turns into a downpour, Toby said, opening the door behind Maggie and climbing inside. She was dead weight. Maggie, I need you to wake up and help get you inside. The only answer she got was a snort. Man, she's really out. What'd they give her? Ricky asked. Be glad she's sleeping. She was a regular chatterbox before we got her in the truck, and she passed out again. He laughed. I would have loved to have heard that. The nurse said that sedation sometimes affects people like a truth serum. Got anything you want to ask her? They said she probably wouldn't remember it tomorrow. I'll think on that, he said. Maggie was slender, but large boned and muscled from farm work. Toby figured she weighed at least 150 or 160. She turned around and used Maggie's arms to pull her onto her back in a backpack style carry. She leaned forward, and Maggie's head fell to rest on her shoulder. You're kind of cute. Maggie's words were soft, but still slurred, and they made Toby smile and her knees go weak. You might not think so in a few minutes if I drop you while you're sweet talking in my ear, Toby said. Okay. Warm breath from a deep sigh brushed Toby's neck, sending goosebumps down her arm. Put her in the recliner, Ricky said. She sleeps there some nights when her back is bothering her. Ricky held onto the casted leg while Toby squatted to lower Maggie, and then he pressed the buttons on the side of the chair to recline it and raised the footrest to support her legs. He was very sweetly took his aunt's hand in his when her eyes opened and focused on him. Aunt Maggie, I got everyone safe and in the barn, but I have to go back to work. Do you want me to call Mom to come stay with you? This question apparently cut through the drug haze, and her eyes widened. Oh, hell no. Her words were still slurred but loud. She closed her eyes and quieted, but continued to mumble. She might be my sister, but I'm not listening to that damn woman preach to me. He squeezed her hand. How about Toby staying with you tonight? She didn't open her eyes, but smiled. Brown eyes? Is she coming over? Toby's face heated, but she squeezed Maggie's shoulder. I'm here now, Maggie. I just brought you home from the hospital. You'd still be lying out there in the dirt if she hadn't found you, Ricky said. She took you to the emergency room. Bryce closed the campground and hightailed it to Florida because of the storm, so we put her horse in your barn and her trailer's in the equipment shed. Okay. You'll let her stay with you, he asked. Her smile turned into a frown. Don't need anybody to stay with me. Toby shook her head. I need a place to stay, and you can use a little help here for a few days, so it works out for both of us. Eyes still closed, Maggie smiled, her words fading into a near whisper. Okay, then. She snuggled under the blanket and muttered something unintelligible. Ricky grinned. They said she wouldn't remember much until she sleeps us off. Toby eyed him suspiciously. The nurse said she probably wouldn't remember much. He knelt next to his aunt. Aunt Maggie, don't you think Toby's pretty? Brown eyes, she mumbled without opening her eyes. Handsome woman. Good looking enough you want to kiss her? Maggie licked her lips, but her answer was a long snore. She was out again. You better hope she doesn't remember this, or she'll have your ass as soon as she can chase you down, Toby said. He laughed quietly. When she has her senses back, don't let her bully you into leaving. She'll try, and if she gets to be too much of a pain, just threaten to call my mom. It works every time. He waved his goodbye and left. The house felt blissfully quiet after the chaos of the accident and scrambling to secure everything before the storm hit. Rain thrummed against the metal of the roof in a steady, soothing white noise. Toby tucked the soft Sherpa blanket around Maggie's shoulders and whispered, I think you're a handsome woman too, Blue Eyes.
Awesome. Wow, that was an epic flirt scene. Yeah, with a little vulnerability in there too. I liked it. Thank you, Deb.
Well, being drugged up will always bring the truth to the surface.
That's right. Yep. That's one way to do it for sure. All right. I have lost my list here. Give me one second. All right. Next up, we have Erin Dutton. Hi, Erin. Go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
I'm Erin Dutton. I have written 14 books with Bold Strokes Books. My latest was just published in January. It is called traveling toward forever. And it was inspired by a road trip that I took with my wife and our dog. And every trip that I take now has to do with my dog. But we traveled out west and hit some national parks and visited a lot of places we'd never been to before. And it inspired me to write this story. It's about an author named Maggie who has not written anything in 2 years. And she gets this idea that she wants to go on this van life road trip to research her next story. And her agent's sister happens to live full time on the road. And so she wants to go out on the road with her on a road trip. And her name is Maggie as well. That we both had Maggies in these books. So Leigh is the sister, and she does not want a companion on her trip. So there's not a lot of flirting in the early days of this trip. But there's been some tension, and in the scene I'm about to read, Maggie and Leigh are in the Yellowstone National Park area, and they've gone to dinner together as kind of a mutual peace offering. They've just finished up the meal and are walking back to the hotel. So you've dated, but no serious relationships? Leigh asked as they waited to cross at a light. Maggie nodded. But I'm sorry, I was about to ask an awkward question. It's just my history with women has been established, and are you trying to ask if I've slept with a woman? Maggie was flushed, but she didn't avoid Leigh's gaze. Social graces be damned, Leigh liked how direct Maggie was. Or were you also curious about my history with men? Leigh must have let her distaste for that thought show on her face because Maggie laughed and leaned into her as they walked across the street. Yes, I've been with a couple of women. But you said you hadn't had a serious relationship, and you strike me as someone who needs... She paused, thinking about how to finish her thought. I don't have casual sex with strangers, no, but I also don't need a ring before I sleep with someone. If I find someone attractive and have gotten to know them a bit and like being around them, I can feel comfortable acting on the attraction. The next question was there, behind Leigh's clenched teeth, fighting to get out. Do you like being around me? It would be so easy to lace the words with a little flirtation and see how Maggie reacted. This was Leigh's game. Gentle, teasing, the push and pull, leading to the two of them in bed. Then after a night of exploring each other, or maybe a couple of nights, she and the woman would go their separate ways. Her problem now was that they would be together for the next 7 days and nights. And while something in her belly tingled at the idea of a week of freedom to fully enjoy Maggie, she didn't know what would happen when the trip was over. Instead, she walked Maggie to their hotel room doors, fully intending to respectfully bid her good night. Thank you for inviting me to dinner tonight. I had a really good time, Leigh said as they both pulled out their room keys. Me too, Maggie said. Leigh felt weird leaving things so formally, as if they were strangers who'd just ended a mediocre first date and couldn't wait to get away from each other. So she went in for a hug to soften the awkwardness. As soon as Maggie's arm slipped around her waist, she knew she was in trouble. Maggie's face pressed into her neck, and when she sighed, her breath felt soft against Leigh's skin. They fit together perfectly. She always laughed when people said that. The human body was built to shape itself to another body, but Maggie flat out belonged in her arms. She could think of nothing else when she held her. Scared by the power of holding Maggie, she eased back, ready to flee to the safety of her room. But then Maggie tilted her head back and looked at her, arousal darkening her eyes, and Leigh just had to kiss her. She lowered her head and touched Maggie's lips before she even knew what had happened. Maggie's arms tightened around her waist, and she rose on her toes to deepen the kiss, making Leigh realize she was being tentative. So she bent her head further to explore more of Maggie's mouth. She traced Maggie's lower lip with her tongue, and a surge of arousal flooded her. Maggie's moan broke through, and Leigh rested her forehead against Maggie's. I'm sorry, she whispered into the space between them. She needed to release her, just not yet. I shouldn't have done that. Maggie reached up and stroked her jaw. I'm not sorry you did. It's not a good idea for so many reasons. Maybe you could tell me some of those reasons so I'll believe them too. Maggie sounded surprisingly calm given what had just happened between them. Leigh smiled as she captured Maggie's hand pulled it down from her face, and held it between them as she took a step back. Thanks again for dinner, but I think we should forget this part happened. That's not likely. Maggie ran her tongue over her lower lip, then pulled it between her teeth. Summoning a reserve of self-control she'd never used with a woman, Leigh swiped her room key and opened the door. I'll see you tomorrow, Maggie. Inside her room, Leigh jerked her sweater over her head, overheating from that kiss and the warmth that still coursed through her. She dropped her sweater onto the bed and went to the bathroom to brush her teeth. She just stepped back into the room when she heard a knock on the door to the adjoining room. She opened the door to find Maggie wearing an oversized t-shirt that covered her only to the tops of her thighs. She locked her eyes on Maggie's bare legs. Maggie started talking before Leigh could recover her senses. I've been thinking since we last saw each other. Leigh swallowed hard, her eyes still glued to Maggie's smooth thighs. Then, as if talking directly to her legs, she said, We've been apart for only 5 minutes. How much could you have thought of in that time? Can we agree that at this point, it's inevitable that you and I will have sex while on this trip together? Wow, you were, I don't know that I've reached that conclusion. Despite what she'd said in the hallway, she couldn't say she hadn't thought about it. How was logical Maggie so damn sexy? Do you have some kind of secret superpower to resist this attraction for 7 more days? Because if I'm honest, I don't think I can. Maggie stepped closer, and her breast, clearly braless under the shirt, brushed against Leigh's. I don't have superpowers. Surely that fact was clearly painted on Leigh's face right now. So if we agree it's going to happen, Maggie traced her hand up Leigh's chest and touched the collar of her shirt. Shouldn't we take advantage of at least one of these beds? You know, the ones that aren't in a van, not to mention the showers with unlimited hot water. Leigh's knees almost buckled at the thought of leading a wrecked and sweaty Maggie into the glass-doored shower in her room and spreading soap suds all over her body. Maggie's hand slid into her hair at the nape of her neck, fingers scratching lightly enough to fire her nerve endings. If Leigh wasn't strong enough to resist, she had to at least find the fortitude to make sure Maggie understood the rules, even if it meant Maggie changed her mind about this. You may have a point about, the beds and the showers, but God, I don't want to pour cold water on this, but you need to know. Maggie rose on her toes, nipped Leigh's earlobe gently between her teeth, and rasped, I'm under no illusions that having sex will change either of our minds about relationships, if that's what you're worried about. Leigh's brain told her to remind Maggie about her earlier assertion against casual sex, but in her heart she knew this wouldn't be casual. The thought alone might have been enough for her to regain her senses, but then Maggie swayed toward her, and when Leigh instinctively grasped Maggie's hips to steady her, her hand slipped under the hem of her shirt. Leigh slammed her eyes shut as her fingers slid over bare skin. Sweet Jesus, she knocked on my door going commando.
Oh my goodness. You guys know how to bring the heat. That's a hell of a flirt scene. Thank you. If everyone can jump back on, we have a few minutes. So I thought I would ask a couple questions. If anyone in the audience has questions, you can pop them in the chat or the Q&A. My question for you is, how do you keep flirt scenes fresh? If you're writing multiple flirt scenes or even writing multiple books, how do you keep them fresh and different? We'll start with Erin.
Okay. I think it's just realizing that the characters are different from every other character that you've written, and really trying to write something that feels natural to those characters and isn't just a broad type of flirtation that could happen between any two characters. Just trying to make it as specific to those two people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Crin, how about you? Anything to add?
Yeah, I was thinking about my first book, actually, Scarlet Thirst, because that was like in the erotic category. And there was a lot of sex in it. And I think that for me, I had to have a really powerful story and really powerful relationships between the characters, whether they're friendships or frenemies or whatever it was that was driving their attraction towards each other for me. So even though I was writing a lot of sex, it was about the way that they related to each other rather than the technicalities of who's doing what when,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. Goes back to character, like Erin said, for sure. Claire, anything to add?
Well, since I only have one book out, I cannot compare like my characters, but I just, I like to read flirt scenes. And I think for me, it's obviously dialogue. It's really have to be flirtatious versus just a cliches, situations. It also depends who you're flirting with. In my book, I have another scene where Nicole sort of have a flirting with another stranger because her in her nature not nature but her like a sort of a self-destructive behavior. She has one night stands mostly because she doesn't want to commit to anything due to a big betrayal. And so that scene is different because with Ali she does feels this genuine attraction and connection from the start. With the other person it's more like, oh, she's gorgeous, let's have sex and then I'll be done with that kind of. So it's a different kind of
Yeah.
situations in a sense. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. I
When
think
I,
that's sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say when I write like 5 books, ask me again, and I can compare.
Fair enough. You're halfway through your next draft, aren't you? Come on. But I think you made a good point about like it depends on the level of interest and the feelings that have developed to that point. So yeah, it's a good point. Deb, anything to add?
I think most of my books are more character driven than plot driven, and um, I and because of that, you sort of get into the characters' heads, and they feel like different people. It's not they're different people from book to book. They're different characters, and so they would respond differently. I mean, some may be real forward, and some more shy, and um, I think I've never thought about it being the same. I worry about sex scenes being too much the
Mm.
same, but because sometimes it's hard to make those fresh unless you're into, you know, I don't know, gymnastics or something. But the flirting scenes to me never feel the same because they're so character driven.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we talked about character. Now let's talk about setting and context. How does that play into the way that you write your flirt scene? Because you all have like very different contexts. That's one of the things that I liked about all these readings. The settings are very different for all of you. So how you might flirt, say, in an airport wine bar is very different from how you will flirt if you're in an RV traveling, somewhere and you're alone. What do we think? Let's start with Deb.
Um, yeah, it's setting has a lot. I mean, like the scene I just read was not, one character's like under the influence and therefore, revealing things that she might not normally reveal. Um, but I don't usually do that. Other settings are um, just I don't know. Anywhere you go, it's two women, responding to each other and to the attraction between them. So I'm not sure that setting has that much to do with it.
Okay. All right. Interesting take. Claire, what do you think? Is setting important in flirt scenes?
Um, it could be, depends on the story. Like in my situation, let's say the first time they met, they were at the airport, and even though the attraction was there, the idea was I'm never going to see this person again. I
Mhm.
can be just as flirtatious or clumsy as whatever because, who cares? We're not going to see each other again. Of course, obviously, they're going to meet later, which might make for some awkward situations. So setting could be important. Um, because depends also on what the intent of a person is, where they are. Like it could be if it's an open public place, it would be different where they might be in an intimate situation, forced proximity, drive-ins for 7 days in a van. That's a little bit different because you cannot just jump out of the van, if you cannot stand the person. Versus at the airport, you say goodbye, my plane's leaving, nice meeting you.
Yeah, that's fair too, whether or not you have an exit strategy, for sure. Crin, how about you? You have a kind of otherworldly setting. Does that play a role?
It did. It did to some extent. I think attraction's timeless and placeless in a way. Do you know what I mean? But for those characters, they are traveling with a young person, so that and they're sort of never alone, just the two of them, leading up to that scene. So that is going to restrict their expression of their feelings. Plus, what I forgot to say actually is that they're in a very dystopian world, land, which is homophobic and misogynist, and it's really dangerous to be gay. So when Kalida blurts that out, it could actually be really dangerous for her to do so. So that's sort of increasing the tension.
Mm.
I think tension is often a component, a part of that kind of flirtation, and the vulnerability. Vulnerability is important. It increases the sort of all the butterflies and, well, the vulnerability of the characters, and that adds something to the attraction and portrayal of that excitement
Yeah.
between them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there is that excitement, but there's also a sense of risk, right? They're kind of taking an emotional leap and yeah, interesting. Erin, anything to add?
I think everybody kind of covered it really well. To me, the setting sort of defines the stakes, right? So I think it's interesting to take a character who would normally be very free and confident and maybe open physically, and then put them in a situation where the setting restricts that. Like you say, it could be very dangerous, or you're in a public place, so you're not necessarily going to act on something in a public place, and so you're changing how that person naturally can act. And I think that kind of presents a challenge for the person. It can be interesting to see how they react to it.
Yeah, yeah, you can kind of play with the tension there a bit, depending on what the setting is. Okay, so what is the difference between flirting and friendly conversation?
We're all right now thinking, don't ask me first. Don't
I
ask
know,
me.
I know it's a hard one. I'm sorry. I'm not going to pick on one. As soon as someone has an answer, just jump in.
I can just say it's based on the situation, because sometimes you don't necessarily know if the other person is flirting or just being friendly, and it's sort of your perception of could have been like what you feel towards them, and if you think, what if she said, like in my scene, it was, for example, she was thinking, was it a line, or was it just she's being too nice, offering me a drink, making all this kind of ideas in her head, when finally the other person does acknowledge that there is something. So it's I guess you can kind of do it with the dialogue or how the scene progresses, but sometimes there's no difference. Some people flirt because they're friendly and they flirt. Some people just being always flirty with everybody without having an attraction. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, isn't it?
I think eye contact,
Mhm.
that eye contact between the two of you can make the difference between flirting and just being friendly. The maybe one character touches the arm of another just briefly, just that brief touch, that would indicate more than just, I'm a friendly stranger. But I think it's mostly eye contact and how they look at each other and hold each other's gaze, would give them an idea that they were flirting with you and not just being friendly.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good one.
You can just ask, are you flirting with me? Are you being friendly?
You can, why not? Erin, Crin, anything to add?
I think I agree with Dee. It's in the eyes, isn't it? It's in the expression and physicality as well. If somebody touches you or brushes your arm or pats your arm or leg more than a friend might do. Do you know what I mean? It's very much in the moment, and maybe it's just that other thing that we can't name, that extra sense, pheromones or whatever it is, that as humans in a real situation we feel that, sense that.
Yeah, and in the context of the previous interactions too, right? I mean, maybe the first time we are having this interaction, it is just friendly conversation. We're getting to know each other, but as the people or the characters continue to interact, you start to see, you maybe make comparisons how they're interacting with you versus how they're interacting with the other people that you are encountering. Are they being just as friendly with the other people in the bar or the other people in the the caravan or the group, whatever that may be. You start to draw those comparisons to, okay, they're being a little more friendly with me, maybe there's something here.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. All righty, well, thank you all so much. This was a fabulous panel, great readings. The links to all these books are in the chat. If you would like to check them out, please do. And join us for our next panel, which is Writers as Readers. It's all about ratings and reviews. So we hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.